Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council, Tuesday the 30th of September 2025, to be held here in the Northcliffe Town Hall, commencing at 5:30. Kaya, Nala Karak Nunga Mort, Kan Karak Ninja Buja. We acknowledge the Noongar people as the traditional owners of the land in which we meet. Announcements by the President. A couple of little things that I'd like to just bring to your attention. Early in October, on the 10th of October, we will be launching our community blueprint, which I encourage you all to be part of. There will be links going out through the community website. This will bring in the basis of our strategic plan going forward for the entire Shire. It will incorporate the visions of all of that throughout the entire Shire and our towns and settlements. And I would encourage you, your friends, your neighbours, the people that you don't even really like very much, to please be a part of this community input. I'd also like to remind you that at the moment we have a local election on. There are 7 candidates for 4 positions within our rural electorate. Please vote. This is the best time that you can ensure that your voice is heard sitting around the table, and that we have a diverse representation of our community to ensure that all voices within our Shire are heard when we are making decisions. There is also this fantastic event being held at the Manjimup Town Hall. It's called Fun for Charity. All proceeds will go towards a charity. This year it is going towards the hospital auxiliary. They are fundraising for a cuddle bed in respite. I would encourage you all to have a look at tickets and maybe come and join the humour and companionship of the evening. One last thing. Tonight is the final meeting of a great deal of wisdom that sits around our table. I have 4 councillors, one who is not here, who have not re-stood for their position on council. Councillor Omade, Councillor Ventress, who is not here, Councillor Winfield, and of course your Councillor Ivy. Wish to thank all of them for their commitment to the Shire, their communities, and I hope that they have more time to do what you really love and what drives you, and I hope to see you in the gallery often. We will always have a cup of tea and maybe a biscuit for you as you sit up the back. Thank you very much. Okay, attendance. 3.1, apologies. Councillor Ventress is an apology. And 3.2, approved leave of absence. Councillor Jade Darren has been granted a leave of absence for this meeting. Declarations of interest.
Thank you, Madam President. I have declarations from 2 people. One from Councillor Omade in relation to agenda item 8.4, which relates to a notice of motion from Councillor De Campo with regards to capping rates at the Donnelly Huts. Councillor Omade is a hut owner in the Shire of Nannup, which is somewhat adjacent to the subject site. And also Councillor Omade in relation to agenda item 9.5.3, which is the final approval for local planning scheme number 4, lot 200 Swimming Pool Road, which is a scheme amendment. Councillor Omade is the chair of the Pemberton Aged Accommodation Incorporated, and they're both impartiality interests. And although they're not voting members of this council, both myself and Mr. Giadresco, the Shire's Director of Development Services, have interest. Mr. Giadresco has a proximity interest in relation to agenda item 9.5.1, which has to do with consideration of a request to amend the agricultural buffer distance at Golf Links Road in Pemberton, and I have a financial interest in the confidential agenda item at the back of the agenda. I don't know the agenda number, but it's the last agenda item, which has to do with the CEO Review Committee minutes and recommendation.
14.11.
14.11. Thank you, Madam President.
Fabulous. Okay, we move on to public question time. 5.1, response to public questions taken on notice. There are nil. 5.2, public question time. So this is the only time of the meeting that people in the gallery can address the council. Can be on any matter, doesn't need to be what's on the agenda. You get 3 minutes to ask the questions of council. We will endeavour to answer your question on the night, but should there be further information, we will take it on notice and we'll give you an email. If someone asks a question, if I could just ask for your name and address, as this will form part of the minutes. Would anyone like to ask a question? Come on up to the podium, thank you. You might have to just hit the little button so that it...
How are we going there? Thank you, Madam President. I actually don't have a question. I've proposed just to introduce myself and my business because I haven't had a chance to, well, apart from tonight, meet most of you. So, Andrew McBain, Marvellous Berries. We're a new business in Northcliffe. We're located at 267 Andrews Road in Barara Brook. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and our business, Marvellous Berries, along with my co-owner and business partner, Brett Heather, who's down the farm working. Just for background, look, we took over the property in January 23. It was probably fair to say, a fairly run-down cattle farm and just grazing cows. We had a vision of turning into a high-value berry farming operation. So myself and Brett have both been involved in agriculture for some time. Basically, after a couple of years of due diligence around going into berries, we wanted to select a site with suitable climate and rainfall to be able to produce high-value strawberries, raspberries, blackberries and blueberries into initially the WA domestic market and then export to other states and export internationally. So the property there was selected. It has very good water potential. As I said, we took over January 23. We established 3 hectares that year. It's all substrate production, so nothing's in the ground. It's all under polytunnels, all out of the ground in tabletops. For strawberries, for raspberries, it's all in pots, and blackberries in pots. So 3 hectares. In our first year, we managed to crack into all the major retailers. So our major customers are Woolworths, Coles, Aldi and Costco, and some select IGAs, etc. Last year, second season, we grew to 8 hectares. This year at 14 hectares. So 14, all covered. We think we'll produce about 1 million kilograms this year, about 4 million punnets going into the WA market. 10 hectares of strawberries, 3 of raspberries and 1 of blackberries. There'll be about 100 workers working there at peak this year. And we have a mix of work, we have labour hire is where a lot of the guys are coming from, East Timor, etc. And they're staying actually in Pemberton. Our vision is to have that workforce down here. And but we currently have, I think, around 8 full-time local people that who are what I would say are in interesting and I'd like to think well-paid jobs that have been created, and we have a lot more that we need to create and would love to have more local people involved. So our plans is to double again over the next couple of years, continuing to invest in infrastructure. We've built a fantastic packing shed with forced air cooling, etc. Our interactions with the Shire to date, I've had fairly limited interactions, except with planning and roads, etc. I want to thank all of the people in the Shire in those services. They've been tremendously supportive of our little venture, even when we weren't producing anything, and certainly their support has made our journey that little bit easier. So that's all I had to really say. I'm happy to take some questions from you, or I'd like to invite you all to visit our property at some time and see what we do. Our motto is growing with science, and I think you'll find if you come and have a look at the tech that's involved in our business that enables us to do what we're doing, I'd like to think you'd be impressed. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Amity.
Yes, our roads are not great. Look, the Andrews Road, if you're familiar with it, there's two roads are our issue. One is Chesapeake, which I know has had work done to it in the past, but one of the issues is there's a lot of four-wheel drivers that use that and they fairly chop it up. So I do have some video, which I won't share with you tonight, of sometimes the trucks trying to get out of there when that's all chopped up. And then Andrews Road itself is and to be fair, there was only 3 farmers down there, and we understand all that, but things are changing quite quickly, and so in short, they're not great. No.
Thank you, Councillor Omenay.
Also, power is an issue. So I meant to say when we got there, the only infrastructure we had was a shed. It was an old cattle shed, no power. It was full of cow poo, and that was sort of home for the first couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
And there's been a lot of milestones. Like getting a toilet was a pretty big milestone. Water and hot water was a big milestone. So it literally has been a grassroots from the ground up, to where we are today. So again, I'd love to have you out and have a look. Power, we're all diesel. There's no way we're going to get 3-phase power out there, but we're looking to move to renewables now. We're having got enough power requirements so we can sort of do that with a partner. So that's what we're looking at doing.
Excellent. Any other questions, councillors? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Well done. Thank you. Yeah, good luck. Any other questions? Deputations little bit further on. That gives you a little bit more time. Yeah, it has. Yep. Any other questions? Sir.
Thank you, Madam President and councillors, for allowing me to have a chat here. I just wanted to bring to your attention...
Now, I can probably tell them who you are, but I need it for
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry. Julian Sharp, 75 Hawke Road, Yugerup. I just wanted to bring to your attention the headlines in the paper a couple of weeks ago. Southwest future dire, and the climate report, bleak future for the southwest of WA. This is really scary stuff. I don't know whether anyone's read it. I haven't read the whole report, but I've read a lot of it, and it pulls no punches. We're in serious trouble. And, it predicts accelerated drying, extended periods of drought, declining agricultural productivity and profitability, impacting your business, Andrew, no doubt, with water issues. These impacts will affect not only our environment, but our biodiversity and our habitats, our social cohesion, our business viability, our community's resilience and health, and the places we live and love. So this report finally acknowledges what the science has been warning about for decades. The impacts are here and now. And all I wanted to say, really, I mean, I won't go on with this, but, local communities have basically been abandoned by government, I believe. Successive governments, they've ignored the science, ignored the impacts, and now these things are here now, and they will affect all of us in one way or another. So all I'm trying to say really is that I think council has a really important role in our communities to lead and pull our communities together, because the impacts are not something that's going to be in the future. They're now, and they're only going to get worse. And I hate saying these sort of things. It's just really depressing, but that is the fact. And, I'm just hoping that council will see that much stronger advocacy to government is needed. Disaster preparedness we need much more funding for that. Bushfire mitigation. There's so much we need to do and has been ignored for decades. Anyway, thank you very much. It gets really depressing, but...
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Mr. Sharp and I have previously sat on the Warren Donnelly Advisory together and are well aware that the Southwest has been modelled to be one of the hardest hit with a declining rainfall. So we are well aware of the possibility of the climatic impacts. Thanks, Mr. Sharp. Any other questions? Fabulous. Okay. Presentations. 6.1 petitions, there are nil. 6.2 presentations, there are nil. 6.3 deputations. Sam, this is when you step up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I was just wanting to speak on... my name is Sam Martin, 246 Golf Links Road in Pemberton.
Thank you.
And we're just wanting to support the the officer's recommendation to reduce the agricultural buffer zone distance a little bit to the land abutting Golf Links Road. I'll go through in a couple of points, but I mean this is the big one. You know, when this development went through, my understanding was it was a bit of an engineered solution so that the agricultural pursuits across the road, which have been going for many generations and are very successful, employ lots of people, that they weren't impeded by people buying in and then complaining about the noise and the dust and the trucks and the overspray, basically. And that's it in a nutshell. But then having got the block, there is a notice on the title saying you're aware of this and you can't complain about it. So that's essentially covered. But what I've sort of realised since buying the block is that the vegetative buffer zone is a great idea. There's an 80-metre vegetative buffer zone, but it's very prescriptive on the species that you can plant. And I don't think, I mean, a lot of them are carries, and it creates a fire wick all the way along Golf Links Road, whereas if we're allowed to introduce different species, oak, fire retardant, fruit trees, then people would sort of plant things that they preferred over the years, still having that 80-metre vegetative buffer zone in mixed heights, but it wouldn't be so prescriptive, and the council wouldn't have to force compliance when people were pulling out trees and putting in fruit trees. It would be a little bit more live and let live, but still have the vegetative buffer zone. But then behind that, in the original report, by the original environmental consultant, they recommended quite a lot less of an actual agricultural buffer zone, and the agricultural buffer zone is just where can you have your house and where can you have your sheds. And so at the moment you can only have habitable structures 170 metres back on the block, well 150 square metres back on a 200 metre deep block. So anything habitable needs to be pushed to the back rather than just behind the vegetative buffer zone. And so having a look at it, and I've got an ageing father and I've got young kids, and I'd quite like to be able to do some ancillary accommodation, and you don't want to just have everyone squeezed to the back of the block. It'd be nice to just be able to spread it out a little bit so people aren't on top of each other. But in essence, that's the nutshell of it. It'd be nice to just have the essence of the buffer zones. They are important, and we completely support those, but just behind that vegetative buffer zone, and in the officer's recommendation, that to be able to have ancillary accommodation and habitable structures as well as sheds in that sort of middle of the block, because that's also the flattest part of the block and the easiest to build on. I'll go on a little bit. There's one of my neighbours and friends, he can't be here tonight either, and I've designed a place for him, and that's where I sort of realised that it was a bit hard to design. You're designing a shed for up the front and trying to make that look good so that because at the moment everyone's just putting cheap sheds and cheap water tanks on the front or the middle bit of the block, so as you drive down the street, so to speak, it looks pretty scrappy because all the cheap sheds are at the front, whereas we sort of designed a nice shed for him, but he's sort of hoping to one day be able to have people stay in it as well, in a sort of guest wing sort of ancillary accommodation in the end of it. Anyway, his name's Anthony Neville, and he's emailed in sort of allowing me to say this, but he supports modifying the agricultural buffer zone for Golf Links Road. He's read the motion in the agenda, and he'd like to share his support for the officer's recommendation. The current buffer zone is significantly larger than the recommendation provided by the original consultant, the environmental consultant, John Wise. and it limits the choice and availability for property owners to locate their house or granny flats on the property. At the moment, the policies it seems you can't. The policy at the moment, you can't even have a granny flat on the block anywhere, and pretty much every block in WA, any residential block, you can, even 350 square metres, you're allowed to have a granny flat. But these ones, for some reason, that wasn't one of the uses. And he had a problem where right at the back of his block, his house pad was pushed right to the back, 150 metres back from the front. So he had the last 50 metres to put the house in, and that was the steepest part. So we've had to put in quite a lot of groundworks to build that up. Anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I think it's just about balancing, and everyone understands the importance of the farming land there, and I don't think the notice allows anyone to complain about the farmers' activities. But it would be good if just after the 80 metres, so the first 80 metres of the block, the first acre is a vegetative buffer zone. In the last 1.5 acres of the block, it would be nice to be able to do sheds and houses and a granny flat in whichever way you like to configure them, so they're all a bit staggered rather than, and just a bit more interesting as well. And you can provide accommodation for extended family or other members of the community with ancillary accommodation. And that's about it, according to my phone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Victoria Shields.
Sorry, I've never done this before.
You're right.
So Victoria Shields, 48 Mottram Street in Manjimup. And this is just my response to the objection that was raised with my family daycare. So I have been operating Beautiful Beginnings Family Daycare from my current residence in Manjimup since January 2025. Running a daycare has been incredibly rewarding, and I'm passionate about providing safe, nurturing and high quality care. Recently, myself and my husband made the decision to purchase a new home, one that we thought would better suit our family and also improve the setup for my family daycare business. When we discovered Yates Street in Manjimup, we immediately recognised its potential and its location, which is a much quieter and safer area. I'm currently just off South West Highway. And also it's got a large double garage. Yates Street's got a large double garage, which I aim to utilise to convert into a dedicated playroom for the children. I've been made aware that there was an objection raised regarding potential traffic and parking. I was actually quite surprised by this, because the reason we actually chose Yates Street was because, according to the real estate, it actually holds 8 cars on the driveway, which is substantially more than what my drive holds now. And also it's a safer and quieter area. So I wasn't sure if they were truly aware what family daycare is. Some people think, oh my goodness, there's a daycare moving to my road. So I just wanted to kind of say, like, family daycare, it's a very small-based childhood education and care provided just by myself in my home. I'm only allowed 5 children under the age of 4, or possibly 7, but 2 of those have to be school-aged. Most of my children are siblings, but the maximum cars that I will have any one day is 5 arriving on a morning, 5 leaving. Drop-ups and collections are staggered across the day, so they very rarely will come together. My parents are obviously, they've also got young children, so they're mindful and respective drivers. My husband works 5/4, so he's often away, and my son drives to school, so the 2 cars that my residents hold won't be there most of the time, so then that 8 parking, so there's plenty of parking. I will also let all of my new parents know, to obviously drive safe in the driveway as they're driving up and down. And I just basically wanted to address the reason I began this business was to help the growing shortage of childcare in the Shire of Manjimup and surrounding areas. And if my application is denied based on one objection for parking, which to me it's ridiculous, because I've got 8 car parking spots on my drive, it would stop a lot of my families. So I currently have 14 families who I help care for their children, all of which that I shared had an objection. Pretty much all of them, I'm not sure if I've they've all sent letters of support. I even got a member of Yates Street reach out to one of my families. They've also said that they are excited about the daycare moving into the street. They've got no problems with it, and they also have sent a letter of support, which again is, I don't want to read them because I've got so many. I'll be here all night. Oh, have you? Awesome, thank you. So basically, I'm just here to respectfully ask the panel to consider the broader context of community need in making a decision. I'm fully committed to operating my family daycare with the utmost professionalism, respect for my neighbours, and compliance with all the regulations. It would be such a shame if I wasn't to get an approval, and I would have to let my 14 families know that they've no longer got daycare. So, yeah, that was me.
Thanks, Vicky, and we appreciate you coming down to read the letter. Thank you. Okay, we've got 2 more deputations to go. These are special ones. Not that the other 2 weren't special. So we're going to ask Councillor Winfield to go first because Councillor Ivey has a home ground advantage. So, Councillor Winfield. This is like a valedictorian speech for the outgoing councillors.
I've forgotten my name and where I live, so that's probably time to leave council. Madam President, fellow councillors, senior staff and folks in the gallery, I've been on council for 12 years and I'd like to reflect on some of the thoughts and events that shaped my time here. In 2013, I guess I was suffering from what former Attorney General Gareth Evans called relevance deficiency syndrome. It was 5 years since I'd resigned from a senior government position, and we'd pulled out the vineyard, and my environmental consultancy was driving me nuts, so I was winding that down, and our 2 boys had gone off to uni. So I'm twiddling my thumbs at home and I read in the local rag calls for nominations in the local government elections. I'd never really thought about it, but in a light bulb moment it sort of made sense. I had leadership experience, I enjoyed meeting people, and I thought I had some understanding of the issues in our community. So, and now I had time to contribute too. Then I realised someone I knew quite well and respected was the incumbent and had re-nominated in East Ward where I lived. So I rang him up and said I was considering nominating, and he said I should nominate in Town Ward. And I thought about that, and then I thought, well, I couldn't see the logic in that. I live in East Ward and he lives in Town Ward. So I nominated in East Ward. My blurb said I wasn't not much more than I was just an advocate for and a believer in transparency and evidence-based decision making, and that I was passionate about the attributes of the Shire. The incumbent withdrew and I was elected unopposed. It was a bit of a shock entering the chamber, also serious. Wade was the only one who laughed. He hasn't changed. In my time, I chaired, I consider 2 important committees for the whole 12 years, Bushfire Advisory Committee and Airfield Management Committee. Both of those played critical roles in the huge 2013 O'Sullivan fire and of course in last year's prolonged D'Entrecasteaux bushfires. My other quest was to have the gallery at the library become a gallery rather than another meeting room. That eventuated, and with the enthusiasm of the current staff, and it's flourished, and I'm very, very happy about that. And I guess the other hugely satisfying aspect of my time on council was to be appointed to be the Walga representative on the State Biosecurity Council. I was on that in that position for 6 years, and then afterwards for another 3 years on the Biosecurity Act Review panel. I was also very proud to serve on the Reconciliation Action Plan Committee. As I've noted other times, for historical reasons, reconciliation is something that I believe in from my experiences as a young bloke in the Kimberley in the 1970s. And what progress I've seen in the town, from the worst dunnies in the west to the best, from a timber town to a place with a steel and plastic acropolis in the middle of it. and the only local government in Australia that owns a bloody nightclub. So I believe I leave the council in a better place than when I joined. I've seen some 20 councillors and about the same number of staff come and go, and some come back again. And Jade's not here, of course. I see the role of the councillors is to mirror how people in the community feel about where they live, and we owe it to them as councillors to reflect their ambitions through imaginative and responsible stewardship of what we've been governing, if you like. And I think turning the everyday conversations you have into the streets into deliverables and actions, and so people can see that you're there doing something. I'll conclude by saying that I believe the revitalisation of the senior staff in recent years is a quantum leap forward for the Shire. I've never had so much confidence in the administration as now. And similarly, I believe the knowledge and enthusiasm and talent in returning councillors, and I'm sure Jenny's going to be one, is the best I've seen in my time. So I congratulate you all and thank staff for your help, understanding and support during my time. And as I always say, thank you linesmen, thank you ball boys and girls. Carry on as I'm not here next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Winfield. Councillor Ivey.
Wendy Ivey, 43 Mirrup Street, 2 blocks down. It's been an honour to represent the residents of Coastal Ward for 6 years and the Rural Ward for the past 2 years. Apologies, I couldn't fix everybody's roads, I tried. It's been a busy decade, firstly participating in the Shire's recovery process after the 2015 fire, and then on council when Councillor Munro stood down. It's been a pleasure working with our Shire President for her first term, and hopefully now more people in our Shire can recognise that women absolutely belong around the table where decisions are made. Thank you to our awesome staff. I have learnt so much from you all, and I know you don't get thanked very often, but I know how much you generally care about our community. And I think you do amazing work. Good luck to our candidates in the election, and everyone needs to turn out for the blueprint sessions very shortly. So 10th of October here in Northcliffe.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Omaday, you sure? Okay. 6.4 delegate reports, there are nil. 6.5 conference reports. Okay. On the 21st to the 23rd of September, a selection of us attended the Walga Local Government Conference. We sat through presentations from ministers and shadow ministers and other local governments highlighting the different ways of becoming more efficient, particularly through collaboration with other local governments. We had inspirational speakers, futurist Richard Hames, cricket legend Glenn McGrath, and Australian of the Year Adam Good. The opportunity to speak with other elected members from all over the state and our neighbours is invaluable. It's one of the very few times that we all get to sit around and just have a chat about what we are all doing and how we are doing it and the different ways that we can do it. And a really valuable part of it was the in-depth conversation with fellow councillors, our 2 new directors and our CEO. So if any of the nominating the candidates get the opportunity to go to local government, I would 100% recommend it. It's not just about what you listen to there, it's about the bonding and the relationships you make with other people while you're up there. Okay, 7. Oh, you're going to do the last one, Councillor Ivey. Confirmation of previous minutes.
I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 26th of August 2025 be confirmed as a true and accurate record.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you very much, Councillor Winfield. Councillors, can we put that to a vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Okay. 8. Motions of which previous notice has been given. 8.1. Notice of motion. Councillor De Campo. Proposal to refurbish the Shire of Manjimup Administration Building. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move that the Council direct the Chief Executive Officer to engage a suitable consultant in the field of office architecture to provide Council with a refurbishment plan for the main office, including the outer courtyard and the integration of the rear of the Town Hall into any new office design using the Building Infrastructure Reserve, and to provide Council with a report with cost estimations for inclusion in the 26-27 budget deliberations.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, in my preamble to the motion, it in fact says most of it, but I will read the points. One, to have a full assessment of the current structural safety and aesthetic issues, have input from staff on ergonomic needs, amenity improvements, workflow efficiencies, redesign the public-facing areas, including Tasmania and the front counter, to a standard befitting visiting dignitaries and public interaction, propose a budget and timeline, and align with the Shire's strategic planning and capital works programs, and consideration of incorporation for modern workplace standards. I'm not sure how long. Well, I'm sure how long I've been around this table, not this table, but the table, and we've done this a number of times. And it is now just time to bring this office up to a contemporary standard. And I understand there is an alternative to do a feasibility study in relation to a potential office upgrade. However, a feasibility study will just say the same thing, that we need an office upgrade. In fact, the Director of Development Services sent out a plan which was actually on paper, amazingly. That is actually the second plan, because there is one in between now and then that we can't find, which that then showed the old chamber, which was the office of the CEO, which has now moved to the centre of the building. So there has been a number of plans over the years, and I'm not sure if any of you in the gallery have had the opportunity to walk through our office, but you go into the front counter and there's a large crack down the wall. It looks like the front part of the building is going to fall off. The carpet throughout the office is worn, although it has been replaced in certain sections. There are no rest areas. The area outside for staff to eat is either blastingly hot in summer or freezing cold in winter, and that's the only area they have to go and enjoy their free time. And of course there's a very small kitchen. So it is just time to bring it up to contemporary standard. And I think without doing a detailed plan and at least having a budget to make a decision of whether we put it into the budget for next year, that's the starting point. Nobody likes office rejigs. We're not going to spend, what did Margaret River spend? Julia Jean's office. I mean, there's it's an amazing Taj Mahal. We're not going to spend that amount of money, but we do need to make sure our office is up to contemporary standard and workplace standards that encourages people to come into the office. In this day and age of people working from home and other things, the working from the office is very important for interaction, ideas and conceptual ideas going forward. So I urge you for that reason, after the last 20 years, to at least support an office design and budget so that we can then deliberate it for the next financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Wilcox. Are there any other speakers? Shall we put it to the vote then, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried to 7-0. Thank you. 8.2, Notice of Revocation motion. Councillor De Campo. Decisions made on the 7th of December 2023 and 18th of January 2024 relating to Lot 100, Etherington Road, Beardleup. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move that Council, in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996 and Clause 16.2 in brackets of the Shire of Management Standing Orders Local Law 2013, 1. Revokes Parts 2 and 3 of the decision made on the 7th of December 2023 in respect to a proposed development of Lot 100 Etherington Road, Beardleup, Council Resolution 29377. 2. Revoke the decision made on January 18th, 2024 to authorise the CEO to proceed with legal action against the owners of Lot 100 Etherington Road, Beardleup, Council Resolution 29420. And 3. Request that the CEO prepare a report for the later consideration of the Council to enable the Council to make a decision on the planning application for the 4-room transportable building. And 4. Request that no further action be taken in respect to the direction notice dated 12th January 2024 relating to the 2 dwellings on the property unless a direction is given to that effect by a decision of the Council.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox.
Thank
Councillor
you,
De Campo.
Madam President, and thank you, Councillor Wilcox, for indulging me. This has been a long-going issue, a long-standing issue in the chamber since I came back. In fact, I think it was one of the first meetings that I came back that this came to take legal action against this proponent. And I just have a quote in relation to planning, not anyone in particular, but planning, and it is that he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And of course, that was the Gospel of John. However, there are other planning issues around there, and this planning issue came around because an application came in for a dwelling, and the staff then went out and did an inspection, and there were a number of other issues out there, planning issues. The point to that is that could have been handled a lot better. And in fact, there is another packing shed on 7 Day Road itself that have multiple planning issues still existing that were identified around the same time, and that packing shed got a $500 fine with no further action. So it is also about consistency. And I don't think that if this came to this chamber today, it would be dealt with in the same fashion. And in fact, in my preamble again, I have mentioned that and that era. It certainly wouldn't be dealt with in that fashion. The 2 dwellings that are there have been there over 20 years. So to come in, as we've discussed, with another development application, it would be very difficult to see that they would still survive that development application. Over 20 years, 2 dwellings have been there, never had an issue, never had a fire, but for bell ratings they can't exist. The other part of this is that property has been out there for more than 20 years, and there has never been an issue in relation to anyone staying there or anyone in those particular dwellings. The shed, which was a part of this initially, has now been approved and is awaiting some building issues that may change because it's not being used as a mechanical shed anymore. But the shed has been approved, and the work on that shed, which costs significant amounts of money, which is fair enough, engineering and structural reports and also a fire report for fire suppression has been done. But in the case of these other dwellings, I do believe that it was a case of do as we say, not as we do. So I urge you to support this motion. I do understand there's been legal advice given to us. I read through the legal advice. Legal advice always errs on the side of caution. I'll just remind you of that. I've had a fair bit in the last month or so. It always errs on the side of caution. I don't think the sky is going to fall in if we pass this resolution. And I certainly don't think we should be running around and not advocating that we do, looking for all of the anomalies out there in relation to planning, because our staff would be inundated, absolutely inundated, from the top end of the Shire to the bottom end of the Shire, east to west, in relation to people that might have minor or major incursions. So I urge you to support the motion. I understand it's topical. However, it is doing the right thing, and I'm sure that, like us, I'm sure that staff also want this issue to be put to bed in relation to this particular matter. I don't think we need to open the door to other planning matters that may be potentially brought before us by not dealing with this one in this fashion. And in the future, and I believe that everything that's been done since this matter has been brought in front of council, and in fact there's a significant corporate that is leasing part of that property now, and all of those matters are all brought before planning, and multiple planning matters have been brought for us since and have all been dealt with efficiently and properly by the proponent. So I urge you to support the motion.
Councillor Wilcox, are there any speakers against that? Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
I'll be voting against this. The legal advice that we've had have clearly recommended that this is not the correct procedure to work our way through this. We should just be asking the proponents to submit another development application. And I forgot what my other point was now. It's all good. Yeah, I don't believe that we should be doing it this way. We should be asking the proponents to resubmit.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any speakers for? Any other speakers? Councillor Mylan.
Thanks, Madam President. Yes, I would like to speak against this motion for the reasons also outlined by Councillor Ivey there, that the legal advice was was fairly clear in the way that I read it, that we shouldn't proceed with this. I also just, this has been a long-standing thing, and I say that probably initially this particular issue wasn't dealt with, we didn't cover ourselves in glory. It was some time ago, some years ago. However, nevertheless, I think the officers have endeavoured to try and resolve the situation in good faith, and given a number of opportunities for the owner of this particular property to resolve some of these issues, and acknowledge he has resolved some of them. Nevertheless, the revocation motions suggests that we revoke the decision to authorise the CEO to proceed with legal action. In no way have we instructed the CEO to take legal action in this case at all, and I'm confident that that would be a very last resort, and I think our CEO would act in a way to try and resolve this. It just leaves that option open there. If it should come to the point, and I'm quite confident it won't actually, if it comes to the point where the legal action is required, then that option's there without us having to come back and reconsider this again for the third time since I've been on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Are there any other speakers? Councillor De Campo, did you want to close?
I have a question. If this motion fails and the applicant doesn't put in another development application, will you proceed to prosecute the proponent?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Madam President. I suppose it depends on the next steps from the applicant and as to how willing they are to look at remediation of the site.
I have another question to the planner, I guess, through the Director of Development Services. If another development application was to come in for the two dwellings, would that be favourably looked upon this time?
Director of Development Services.
We would consider the application on its merits.
As I thought. I urge you to support this motion, not because of the answers that I just received. It is because it's the right thing to do. This property, again, has had no significant issues with both the dwellings that have been told to be removed. And let's not forget that since this issue came along, bell ratings have changed in respect to where and how they are applied. And now that may not mean it's allowed to be applied on this property due to its commercial nature. However, we have just recently, and bell ratings was the main reason to remove the two dwellings, we have just recently approved a property in Quinnanup in the middle of the bush for a short stay accommodation. So the point to that is that things change. Legal advice is legal advice. I'm sure I could get another lawyer to provide legal advice to say that we could do it without any problem. I just urge you to put this to bed and leave it in the past, a little bit like 5D Brockman, a little bit like the Blue Scope Hotel that we're trying to resolve the issues around, and this will be one of the last things to tick off. If there are any other issues out there in the future, then I certainly, as a councillor, don't have a problem with taking action, because I'm sure there won't be. I think this particular proponent has learned his lesson in that space, so I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Question, Councillor Ivey?
Do I need to foreshadow going back to the original motion if this one fails?
Thank you. Councillors, can we put to the vote, please? All those in favour? 3 against. 4 lost. 3-4. Thank you. 8.3, notice of motion, Councillor De Campo. Proposal to prepare a submission to funding providers for the Pemberton Playground refurbishment. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you. It is that Council direct the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a submission to relevant funding providers for the Pemberton Playground refurbishment using the Playground Reserve as seed capital for the application, and for the submission to relevant funding body to be submitted in a manner that, if successful, allows the playground to be built in the 26-27 calendar year.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Omodo. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. Sometimes these things just need to be brought to a head. A playground in Pemberton has been discussed for quite a while, and yet we are still not putting any money away into a reserve as seed and capital funding. So the reason for bringing this is that the Pemberton community expects, and as we've seen today, in fact, other than the Pemberton Club, if you exclude that, there is significant amounts of money and capital spent in other towns. Councillor Wilcox tells us there's 5 playgrounds in Walpole now. And so the Pemberton community and our tourism town essentially deserves a new playground. I think that one would be 20 years old now. Yes, 20 years old at least in its age, and so I'm not sure it would even comply today, but that's not a reason to renew it, I guess. So the reality is that I think Pemberton deserves a new playground, and I urge you to support the motion.
Councillor Amodei.
Thank you, Madam President. As has been mentioned by the move of the motion, this issue has been around for quite some time, and there's been talk in the town about the standard of the playground and its suitability for that area. I'd also like to remind Council that Councillor Ventris, who basically has been the West Ward councillor for a number of years, has been a great advocate for the upgrade of this facility, as has been the local advisory committee. There's no doubt that the playground is tired. There are drainage issues that need to be resolved that are causing problems to the Pemberton Aged Accommodation next door, where people are not allowed to smoke in that area and need to get off the premises. And one of the residents who is wheelchair bound is unable to actually get off through that gate because it's been too boggy, although it has dried out in recent times. So there are the issues of the upgrade of the playground, the issue of the surrounds, and obviously there is nothing. We've been told in earlier meeting briefing that there are no funds in this year's budget, but we need to move in that direction, and seeking additional funds, I think, is the correct way to go. Should the playground reserve be not suitable, then we really need to find some matching funds from within the budget to achieve that. But I support the motion as moved by Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Councillor Amodei. Are there any speakers against the motion? Councillor Ivey.
I well remember Councillor De Campo's concerns a few meetings ago that council committees were making decisions and recommendations that force council to act on matters they have no control over. I believe it was the covers over the artefacts at the Heritage Park. Here's a perfect example of that. We have 3 towns and a couple of settlements in our shire that would love spectacular new playgrounds that we can't afford. This one is going to cost us $2 million. We have lots of other things we could be spending $2 million on. How about we distribute that money equitably and work towards a solution for all the towns, not just one?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Is there any speakers for the motion? Are there any other speakers? I'd like to speak for the motion. I think that this is just formalising what is a decision of council and was a decision of council for quite some years ago, and I concur this is something that is needed by the Pemberton community, so I do urge you to support this motion. Councillor De Campo, did you want to close? Can we put that to vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? And against? Carried 6-1. Thank you. Okay. 8.4, notice of motion. Councillor De Campo, proposal to introduce cap on minimum rate, Donnelly River Hut Precinct. Councillor De Campo.
I wish somebody had a run against me. It wouldn't be such a...
We're thinking the same thing.
It was like a parting shot, wasn't it? I'd like to move that the Chief Executive Officer direct the Director of Business to, 1, introduce a 70% cap on the minimum rate for the Donnelly River Hut Precinct to be included in the 26-27 budget. And 2, that council rebate the hut owners in the Donnelly River Hut Precinct 30% of the minimum rate charged in the 25-26 budget.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I refer to page 22, and the original motion carried 6-2, and point 2 of that is direct the Chief Executive Officer to report on other DBCA leases, including Broke Inlet, Gardner River, and Calcup as a part of the rating review and rating strategy. Today we've heard from staff that it will be between 5 and 10 years before we are able to officially lease and rate in Broke Inlet, for argument's sakes. the rating of the Donnelly was contingent in some ways to those reviews being conducted and an equity basis situation of those places being rated. Now, if you look at, for argument's sake, Broke Inlet is serviced by a Shire road, which we ensure that we grade for how many people? Director of Development Services?
Through the Chair, there's 2 freehold properties and 3 DBCA leases in the National Park.
Yeah, so 2 freehold properties and 3 DBCA leases, plus a number of informal ones that may not pass the spec when we finally do inspections of those. Those huts haven't been inspected at all. What we've also required the Donnelly as a part of this to do is to have an inspection, pay for an inspection that we do as a part of our service. We fee for service, NANUP and management. But the Donnelly is at the end of a DBCA road, which we don't grade. It's a fee for service to inspect their huts to bring them up to standard. And I only think it's fair that because we haven't completed what we said we were going to do, that we offer a rate reduction. I'm not saying we shouldn't charge something. I'm certainly not saying that they're like a not-for-profit. I'm certainly not saying they shouldn't pay something. But I don't think it is fair. It is not like Windy Harbour, for argument's sake, where we've had the discussion today about the pressures on Windy Harbour, the pressures around water, the pressures around road infrastructure, the pressures around flooding and draining water out of the settlement, which is all going to cost us a lot of money. What do we actually give to the hut owners of Donnelly? We don't even give them a road into the place. We don't have to grade the road. There is no rubbish service, although as I'm confidently told by Councillor Omaday, they are charged a rubbish service by the Shire of Nannup on their side of the river. We don't give a rubbish service, and we certainly don't have a bin at the boat landing that we go and collect to take their rubbish away. I do understand, and I did use this to a fault, I must say, in the original motion that, Donnelly hut owners, and I think I used Grays Road back then, and I don't think I've been spoken to by those people since. And certainly don't think I got their vote in March. But the reality is, there is certainly things that they do use, road networks, other things. Some come in from Nannup, some come in just down the South West Highway, and some come from Pemberton. Some come from Grays Road. So there is a need to charge something. Is it the full minimum? I don't think so. I think 70% is certainly a good base. I did consider going down the road of seeking council's support to do extra grades on a DBCA road, but that is a thin end of the wedge we do not want to open in relation to that, because they do 3 or 6 grades a year. Somebody did
4.
4 grades a year currently. So why would we go and grade their road for them to just grade it less? This amounts to, by the way, $2,000, Mr. Lockwood? 3,800 and change. 3,800 and change. It's not a big amount of money, but what it does, it repairs our relationship, or starts to repair our relationship with the Donnelly Hut Owners Association, and I urge you to support the motion.
Councillor Mylan.
I'd like to speak in favour of the motion too, and thank Councillor De Campo for seeing the light. Who moved the motion previously he moved against my motion at the previous time this was discussed, when I suggested that we do something similar, and that we also take the sort of action that that this proposes to do now. Look, amongst all the other things that Councillor De Campo said, and they're actually dead right. There's just a couple of things we need to we confuse a few of these leases. I'm talking about leases that are on national park land, like the Donnelly hut owners at Broke Inlet. To my understanding, I'm pretty sure of this. There's only 2 huts that fit that category. They're on the other side of Broke Inlet, and they have to traverse across the waters the same as the Donnelly hut owners do to get to those. They're the only 2 that are classified like that, and the other 3 are down at Gardner. I don't know about the Cup situation. So just to not confuse the huts that are down at Broke Inlet in Campfield, which are completely different category. However, it is unfair that we have two huts at Broke Inlet and 3 down at Gardner who are in exactly the same lease arrangements, as the Donnelly ones, and we haven't resolved to actually do anything about that. That's kind of what this is about, but it's also about the same things about the noting that there should be a differential rate. I've advocated for this. The group down at the Donnelly don't, as Councillor De Campo has amazingly come around to see, that don't receive any of those services the same as particularly something like Windy Harbour. And I think they deserve some recognition for that fact. They themselves approached us as an association. They initiated this discussion because they knew what was happening in Nannup. They didn't just sit back and say, all right, we'll hope it goes away. They came to us and said, look, we understand and we think that it's fair enough that we pay some rates down there. We think there should be some recognition and acknowledgement for the fact that, you know, we are a different sort of category. And that HUD Owners Association down there at the Donnelly, they take responsibility. Then the Shire's not going down there cleaning up around there. There's visitors that come down, and because they only got 1 metre around their hut, they can have people camping straight outside their door, and they have. I've seen that happening down there. So it's a different sort of situation. They're not allowed to actually live there like other people on minimal rates. And they take great responsibility in caring for that section of our Shire that is in National Park. For instance, they organise themselves to collect rubbish along the beach and collect plastics. I've seen bag loads and bag loads of plastics coming down through there. The installation of defibrillators around there just for that to keep that region safe. So they take a lot of responsibility and care for that part of the river. And I really think that the fact that they've come to us in good faith some time ago, and that we did consider it, that we should really endorse the motion that's in front of us now, which is to charge them 70% rate. So I urge you to support this when you vote now. Thank you.
Are there any speakers against the motion? Thank you, Councillor Ivey.
I think you'll find that a lot of the Donnelly River hut owners potentially use other roads in our Shire. They could use the Aqua Centre, they could be using our libraries, they could be using a lot of our facilities, the waste transfer stations, so all these things are provided by ratepayers. I'd note the social point in sustainability. Ratepayers expect objectiveness, fairness and equitable rating of all properties within the Shire. Given that these leases are used as holiday homes, there is a potential perception of social inequity, as residents struggling to maintain their primary home may view discounts granted to holiday homeowners as unfair. Having a holiday home in a remote location surrounded by National Park is a privilege, not a right, and I believe that rates should be paid equitably by all homeowners.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Amadou.
Madam President, I should explain my situation. I am a hut owner at the Lower Donnelly and a member of the Lower Donnelly Conservation Association. My hut is in the Nannup Shire, and as was discussed during the briefing today, if you were to remove the river, my next door neighbour would have a proximity interest. I believe that I've got an impartiality interest, and I must say that the Lower Donnelly Associations handle themselves very professionally in their communication with the Shire Management. And whilst there could be people in the Shire that would argue that I don't get my road graded very much, and etc., etc., you could go on. But I would argue that it's different at the Donnelly. For a start, you need the road, as Councillor De Campo mentioned, belongs to DBCA. There's no rubbish removal at the boat landing. And yes, you could argue that those hut owners would use our rubbish facilities. But when you go down the Donnelly, the maximum size house, and bear in mind there's 950 odd minimum rate payers in the district. We are talking about 10 here, and there are 33 on the other side in Nannup. And yes, they've been paying rates in Nannup now for since 2015. And that's been a bone of contention between the association and the Nannup Shire. However, so when you go down the Donnelly under your lease, so you pay a lease to DBCA of about $1,500, you pay a jetty licence, and you pay your rates to the local government. And as Councillor Mylan mentioned, nobody down the Donnelly is saying that we shouldn't pay rates. We're saying that we should pay rates, but they should be at a reduced level than the normal rate. Bear in mind, most of those people, those 950 odd minimum rate payers, can walk to the library or to the visitor centre or to the swimming pool, and they have services that are provided for them. To get down the Donnelly, you need a boat for a start, and they're all different kinds of boats that go down the Donnelly. Some of them work and some don't. Some get stuck in the reeds. But anyway, so the conditions of the lease are that you're not allowed to have any more than 90 square metres of under roof hut at the Donnelly. The lease also says that you're not allowed to light a fire outside the hut. You're not allowed to plant a garden. You're not allowed to plant a veggie garden or a rose garden. So there are very strong conditions. You're not allowed to have a pet. You know, even if you've got a companion animal, you're not allowed to have a pet. In my case, I spend quite a lot of time down the Donnelly. I'd almost argue that it's my principal place of residence. Well, it's going to be after tomorrow. It is a totally different situation to the norm in that. And I'll say again, 90 square metres of house is not a very big house. The fact is that people are allowed to walk past your house within metres with no inhibition. At the moment, we have a serious feral pig problem that hasn't been resolved for the last 2 or 3 years. And again, I would argue that this is a sensible compromise to what was proposed previously. And bear in mind, a lot of these ratepayers, and even the ones on the western side, on the Nannup side, are Manjimup Shire residents as well. And they just need, as Councillor Ivey, to steal one of her phrases, need to be treated equitably and with fairness. I think that's the important point. Fairness, and at the moment, the rating of the Donnelly, given the size of the houses and the isolation, etc., I don't think the current system is fair to them, and that a reduced rate would be a common sense and a sensible thing to treat. The Lower Donnelly Association, I must say that Brad Russell is a very level-headed young man who chairs that organisation. We have an excellent working relationship with DBCA, and we have regular inspections by DBCA all the way down the Donnelly. Bear in mind, you can't walk there, you can't drive there.
Thank you, Councillor Omday. Are there any other speakers against? I'd like to speak against this motion. There's a very well-known quote that says, "Ask not what you can do, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." This is about equitably. I'm sure, as I'm sure many other councillors, every year at rate time we would get a phone call from the late Mrs. Fouracres, who often asked what her rates went towards her on the farm. She had a gravel road that got graded, once every 4 years, didn't get rubbish collection. What did her rates go on? Did she pay her rates every year? So what is the difference between the privileged 10 that are down? What is the difference between the privileged 10 that are down at the Donnelly River that do get their rates cheaper than on the other side of the river, which is 1,405, as compared to the Manjimup side, which is 1,295. So the rates on the Manjimup side are actually cheaper than on the other side of the river anyway, which, from what I understand, don't get any more services. We've had a very interesting conversation with the financial assistance advisor from Anglicare in the last few weeks about people that are struggling to pay their rates in their primary residence. We're not talking about privileged people that have a hut down on the Donnelly that they take their boat down to. We're talking about people that are struggling to pay their rates on their normal properties. Are we giving them benefits? Are we giving them discounts? No, we're not. We got a thank you today from the Carry Capers, who are very thankful for the $600 donation that we are covering their insurance so that they can do exercise classes. Where did that $600 come from? It came from our rates, because it comes through our community grants that help our community, our smaller community services, like the Bee Festival, which is where that money will come through, is from our rates. I cannot understand how the difference of $3,885 is going to make any difference to the 10 people that are down the Donley, and yet it can make such a difference to the ratepayers of Manjimup, and I strongly urge you to vote against this motion. Councillor De Campo, would you like to...
Thank you, Madam President. You've opened so many doors. I'm salivating, I can tell you. Can I just say to Councillor Moylan...
Moylan's
the silos guy.
George Bernard Shaw said, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." Can I also say, as my first quote is that he is that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. First cast a stone at her. I cannot believe that we talk about sustainability and equity. We talk about sustainability and equity, Madam President, when we've been charging a multi-million-dollar company that made $90 million a year over the last decade 80 cents a month, 80 cents a week, for their rent. We charge a multi-million-dollar company 80 cents a week for their rent. We talk about equity and sustainability. We had a briefing this afternoon where we are charging one aged accommodation facility rates and we're not charging another aged accommodation facility rates. We talk about sustainability and equity like it is very loose lips. Do not cast the first stone. Do not talk about sustainability and equity when we do not preach the same gospel within this chamber sometimes. When there is sustainability and equity to that level, then we certainly can talk about that. This is about doing the right thing. This is a road that we don't, not like the road that we replaced the culvert many, many years ago to the east of our shire, and we were going to close that road because there are only 4 people a day used it. But those 4 people traversed 32 kilometres, it saved them, to go from one farm to the other. And at that point, we created a culvert reserve. We created a culvert reserve specifically for those very small jobs. We can't even go and replace a culvert for these people because it's not our road. They don't even travel into the Donley on our road. So if you talk about equity and if you talk about sustainability, I absolutely don't disagree. We have a group in Manjimup that they got $12 million from the government. $12 million they got handed from the government. That was our money originally. We also charge them 80 cents a week for their rent in a building. So when you talk about equity and when you talk about sustainability, let's talk horses for horses. Otherwise, I urge you to support this motion.
Councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? And against? Carried 4-3. Okay, let's get on to the real business. Item 9, Officers' Reports. Office of the CEO, 9.1.1, Proposed Special Council Meeting, 21st of October 2025. Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
And a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the motion? Thank you. Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.2.1, Proposed Lease to Amplitel, Pty Ltd, portion of Reserve 47149 Quinnanup. Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor De Campo?
No.
Can we put it to the motion to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.3.1, Shire Financial Payments for July 2025. Councillor Ivey, it's the last time you'll get to do it.
I'm not sure who's going to do this in the future.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Wilcox. Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. 9.3.2, unconfirmed minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 10th of September 2025. Councillor De Campo.
As per officer's recommendation, Madam President.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion?
No.
Thanks. Councillor Ivey. Can we put the motion to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0, thank you. 9.3.3, monthly statement of financial activity, July 25. Councillor Winfield?
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
As per the officer's recommendation.
Thanks. Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. Councillor Winfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Not really, but I was hoping for a quote from the opposite side of the chamber.
Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion?
No.
All those councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0, thank you. Now, do you remember what you have to do? 9.5.1, Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. Can I please move as per officer's recommendation, however, with a change to the references, and that is that all the references to Special Use Area 6 or Special Use Zone Area 6 be replaced with Special Use Area 7, specifically at points 1.1, 1.3 and 2.2.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Omade. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion?
Look, other than this is a very, very sensible change to the building envelope, as we heard in the very long deputation. It allows for ancillary buildings. Ancillary buildings. It allows for a
Reduction.
what do they call them? Oh, it is ancillary buildings. Ancillary accommodation, eventually later on down the track, and also allows to shift the house around in the current spots, which is common sense. And I think we're all about common sense decisions here, so I urge you to support the motion. No quote, Councillor Winfield, I'm sorry.
Councillor Omade.
Madam President, I support the amended motion as amended by Councillor De Campo. I thought that Sam Martin put his case very, very clearly. If we had our time again, and we do make good decisions at a local government level, but if we were to revisit this subdivision, would we have the same number of roads that front on, or access roads that front onto Golf Links Road? I think if we had a road that started on Golf Links Road and went around to the extent of the blocks and came back up near the golf club, then we'd have one entry and one exit onto Golf Links Road, and the houses then wouldn't need to, or all of the tenant owners wouldn't have to build 90 or 100 metres of gravel road at every 50 or 60 metres. It's a very, very poor design, but it is what it is. But what it does create, it creates a situation where we have long, narrow blocks, and obviously with the vegetation, that limits the amount of room that they have to put their house and shed. So it really just is a common sense suggestion here by staff that we give some flexibility to these people, and which should be extended to the other people that live there as well. If you look at, I think you'll find, if you went back and if you recall the situation when it was first mooted, there was some angst between the current landholders on the other side who have a big avocado packing shed there and an extensive avocado orchard, who were concerned that the new people who were coming to their neighbourhood or next door neighbours were going to complain about all of the nuisances, noise, dust, smoke, and light, etc., which would potentially affect their normal day-to-day operations. So I think there could have been a compromise. That didn't occur, and you might recall Mr. Martin talking about the types of vegetation, those that occur on the list that were suggested. Some of them were, as we discussed in the briefing, Carry, Marry, Tingle. Tingle certainly would grow there, I think, but they're tall trees. I don't think they'd have much impact on spray drift anyway. So just to go back to Mr. Martin, I think his proposal makes sense and we should support it.
Thank you, Councillor Otto. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.2, adoption of the advocacy plan. Oh, can someone let Mr. Giadresco know he can come back in? Welcome back. Adoption of advocacy plan for the remediation and future development of the Pemberton Mill site. Councillor Mylan.
I'd like to move as per the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Amadei. Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do, because as I said before in our briefing, I was very impressed with the advocacy plan. I think it's been well researched, and as we've all discussed here a number of times, the need to rehabilitate and deal with the old Pemberton Mill site is critical. Number of ongoing issues, and this really calls for the state government to take its share of responsibility, the lion's share really. And these were all state sawmills back in the day, and I'd be pretty confident that a lot of the mess and pollution around there would have been back in those days as well. So I wanted to be able to speak because I wanted to also congratulate the staff who've really written a great plan, and let's hope we're successful with getting this forward. So,
thank you, Councillor Amadei.
I'll try and be brief without repeating too much of what Councillor Mylan has already mentioned. I think this is an excellent report, the advocacy plan, and commend the officer responsible. As you've heard from me in the past, the mill site, which has been there, has a 999-year lease for mill purposes, has been there since 1913, I think. And at the moment, it's an absolute abomination. It's absolute disgrace. Yes, the mill is burnt down. They've removed the rubble. Some of it's still there. There's timber. There's bamboo, not a plantation, a grove of bamboo. On the southern end, there's an old sawdust dump. It really needs to be dealt with urgently, and I think we should advocate as strongly as we possibly can through any medium that we can to have this matter resolved and cleaned up. The site has huge potential for the town of Pemberton, and at the moment when you drive into the town and you look to your left down the hill, all you see is all these old buildings, and somehow or other Parkside, the proponents have been able to clean up what was actually burnt, but not the rest of the site. So the green chain, all of the old buildings, the old buildings that had the electricity and etc. Have just been left there. So the whole landing is still lined with 600 mil square blocks, big planks that are under the ground. It's a fire. It's a massive fire risk, and it's just such an eyesore that, you know, all of the community people that I speak to keep asking me. I must have been asked hundreds of times about when are we going to do something about that mill site. And I know that there's the bureaucracy and whatever. And in the early days, you know, I was there at 6:15 in the morning when the thing was alight. We were very lucky there wasn't a wind blowing towards the town, so there was no wind at all. The smoke went straight up, so all the perspex and that still were found up towards the top of the town. The reports that came through indicated that the asbestos hadn't moved very far at all, but obviously the site there was, we had meetings with Parkside immediately within a week, so all of the senior staff were there. We had DPLH, we had Parkside themselves, we had a number of meetings, and since then it just seems to have hit some roadblocks. And I know that the current Shire President and Chief Executive Officer have had meetings, and some progress is being made, but it could work a lot faster, I think. We need to give some feedback to that Pemberton community about what is happening, and maybe some kind of a press release that talks about the advocacy plan and indicates that we are meeting on a regular basis with relevant ministers and the government. You know, we wrote to the Premier. The Premier responded, said yes, the site could be repurposed and so on and so on, and it's really just ground to a halt. So I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Amadou. Are there any speakers against? Are there any other speakers? I would just like to also commend the senior management team for bringing together this advocacy plan, which I understand will be one of the first of many going forward. I, as the new Shire President, are very thankful for a clear direction from Council. When we do go out to advocate, I do speak on behalf of Council and not from my own need, and that is important to me, is that we have a very clear a clear direction that has come from Council. This has obviously raised a great deal of concern through the community, and it's fantastic that we do have a clear direction forward, which I hope the community will also contribute to within that community blueprint that we have spoken about before today, to give us a further direction of what the community feels that they would like that site to possibly be developed through, and that will give us further clarification about what we are advocating for. So I would urge you to accept this advocacy plan. Councillors, can we put that to the... Oh, Councillor Mylan, did you want to close?
Yeah. What he said.
Who cares? Thank you. Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Thank you. Carried 7-0. 9.5.3, consideration of submissions and final approval of Amendment 28 to Local Planning Scheme number 4 for Lot 200, Swimming Pool Road, Pemberton. Councillor Amadou.
Madam President, I'll move the motion as it's written, as per the officer recommendation that says that Council 1, pursuant to Regulation 50, subsection 2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes, in brackets, Regulations 2015, endorse the schedule of submissions relating to the amendment number 28 as attached at 9.5.3 subsection 2. 2, pursuant to Regulation 50 subsection 3B of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulations, endorses the schedule of modifications relating to the amendment number 28 as attached at 9.5.3 subsection 3, and requests that these incorporated into the amendment number 28 by the Minister for Planning. And 3, pursuant to section 75 of the Planning and Development Act 2005 and Regulation 50 subsection 3 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, adopts amendment number 28 to the Shire of Manjimup Local Planning Scheme number 4 as attached at attachment 9.5.3 subsection 1.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. Councillor Amadou, did you want to speak to the motion?
I do, Madam President. As I mentioned, as has been mentioned, I have a impartiality interest in this, as I am the chairman of the Permanent Aged Accommodation Incorporation. And the reason I read that out is that if somebody from the Permanent Aged Accommodation reads the minutes of this meeting, will know that I have moved the motion. In fact, as we speak now, the Permanent Aged Accommodation are having their 2-monthly meeting, and this will be high on their agenda. I want to pay a due regard to Gordon Smith, who worked for the Town Planning Appeals Tribunal many years ago, and then subsequently worked for the Shire of Manjimup as a planner. I presume he was a planner, and has been the president of the PAAI for a number of years, and I think presented this submission to Council. Is that correct? On behalf of PAAI. So Gordon has been a great servant. This is in regard to the land that's adjacent to the Pemberton Recreation Centre. The land was ceded to us or gifted to us by West Farmers about the time of their 100th year celebration, and I was given the task of approaching them. Interestingly, one of my former political opponents, Alan Carpenter, was the Director of Corporate Services for West Farms at the time. I rang and asked him for a meeting, got the meeting within 24 hours, and they have been very generous in providing us the grant of this land, which is 13,000 square metres. The only inhibiting factor is that it's got a giant sequoia tree which will take out about 5 blocks. I suggested we could cut it down, but it didn't go down too well with the local community. So what we want to do, when we are putting 2 more units onto the current development on Dock Ryan Close, and then we'll be seeking to expand down the bottom end of town. Bearing in mind that Pemberton is probably one of the few towns that doesn't receive assistance or hasn't received any substantial assistance from the state government in relation to aged care. The committee itself is a dedicated committee. Christine Trappett is the Secretary-Treasurer and has been operating as such for 33 years. She is one of those rare people that knows exactly due process, dots all the I's, crosses all the T's, and we're very lucky to have her as a person who makes this contribution to this community. So we had to rezone the land from town centre, from tourist development to town centre, which allows us to subdivide the land. It's not all peaches and cream. The site itself has had houses on it before and looks really nice from the outside, but there's a lot of rubble under the ground. So there are going to be quite a few challenges, and the challenges of providing sewerage connection, power and water will be tasks that the committee needs to address. But this is a very important step, and I don't know how long it will take the Planning Commission to give the final approval, but once that occurs, obviously the task will be ahead of the committee to develop that land for aged care purposes. I think that's enough from me, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Almaday. Councillor Ivey? Are there any speakers against? Any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 954, draft local planning strategy for 2040. Councillor Mylan.
As per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Winfield. Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just very briefly. And I say that in all honesty. But I did go through this local planning scheme draft, which the first one of these I've ever seen in my life, which was really quite interesting. And but what I did note, because I was trying to figure out what's different between the last one, but these 4 points I think are worth noting. The draft local planning scheme differs from the 2003 one, so let's hope it's a bit different. But in this way, encourages and facilitate new tourism developments and strategic tourist recreational sites to enhance the Shire of Manjimup as a destination of choice, important. Support the development of the Warren Blackwood industrial sites hierarchy, which probably maybe even go to the Pemberton Mill site. Protect life and property from bushfire, as has been mentioned a number of times this evening, an important goal. And lastly, very importantly, protect and promote places of cultural, Aboriginal and historical heritage. So, I commend the work that's gone into it. Another huge document. Thanks very much, Jocelyn. And, well done.
Thank you. Councillor Winfield.
Yes, so this provides a very exciting bookend to my career on council, as I think it was part of the very first budget in 2013. So I'm very pleased that it's finally made it.
Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.5, retrospective retaining wall at 8 Mitchell Way, Windy Harbour. Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the motion? Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.6, proposed family daycare at lot 305 in brackets 11 Yates Street, Manjimup. Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Omoday. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion?
I think we all understand how important childcare is for our region, and yeah, we really should be supporting anyone who wants to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Omoday, did you want to speak to the motion?
More by almost an interjection. I thought, Madam President, I support the motion. I thought the lady who presented her submission was excellent, articulate, and obviously is passionate about what she does.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.7, delegated planning decisions, August 2025. Gosh, Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Mylan?
No.
Thank you. Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.1, unconfirmed minutes of the Reconciliation Action Plan Advisory Committee meeting held on the 5th of September 2025. Councillor Winfield.
As per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. Councillor Winfield, did you want to speak to the motion?
Very briefly. Yes, unfortunately I had to be sailing while this meeting was on, so I missed it. Otherwise I would have bookended this as well.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? I'd just like to mention I did chair this meeting, and it was very remiss of me not to acknowledge your long-term commitment to the Reconciliation Action Plan. So I would like to do that now. Thank you, Councillor Winfield, for all that you have done to push this the RAP plan forward. Councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.2, report and recommendations for establishing recreational vehicle-friendly towns. Councillor Mylan.
I'd like to put an alternative motion, please.
Thank you.
Referring to page 91.
Yep.
My alternative is all the same in points 1 and point 2, but just to remove point 3 completely from there. And to keep point 4 and point 5 the same.
So make point 4, point 3 and point 5, point 4?
That would be good.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to that? Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to it?
Yes, I would like to speak to that. I think it's good that we look at the towns in our shire as becoming RV friendly. And when we talked about that, it was really, I think, with the intent of providing a place for RV users to stop overnight, possibly for 2. I was really considering just a sort of a 24-hour stopover, to allow them to get rid of their waste, get some water, fill up their, get their fuel, and do some shopping, maybe go to the cafe and so on. And I think that we should continue to try and get those locations in the various towns the same. However, the idea of 72-hour stopovers, and it may be slightly different in all the different towns, but this does refer to a number of different places: Ray Park Reserve, Northcliffe Recreational Ground, and Walpole Pioneer Park, Western Side. It's really setting up a caravan park that people can stay there for 72 hours, which will be under the control of the Motorhome Club of Australia, CMCA. And we did get an address by Mr. Collegia from CMCA, and he made a very good case for why we become RV friendly. He is representing his members, who all pay a fee to that group, and he advocates that they'll set up another caravan. These types of 72-hour ones would be somehow manned or personed, supervised by one of their members somehow, rostered on, I assume. However, I don't really think that that was the intent of where I was coming from when I was talking about these stopovers. We do have accommodation providers in our town. We do have caravan parks where people are going there. And if you're coming for a 72-hour, you're not doing a stopover, which is what this sort of intention was. You're coming for a holiday, I think. And so I don't think we should really be in the business of running small caravan parks, even though they might only be for 3 days. So, look, I support the rest of it, and I hope you do too.
Councillor Wilcox?
While I'm going to go along with Councillor Mylan's recommendation, I would really like to also keep this in abeyance on a sort of suck it and see type thing. Let's start small and see how it goes, and then we can do some planning for if and when we engage conversation with CMCA.
Madam President, I've got a question. I can't recall whether we engaged with the Northcliffe caravan parks when did we discuss with them that we were going to do this, or have they been left out? Because I think that they should have been consulted, and I think that whilst every caravaner looks for a I think I was asking a question, so let me get an answer to the question and then I can speak further.
Director of Community Services.
Through you, Madam Chair, there hasn't been any extensive consultation at this stage, and Council gave a very clear direction to staff that it should only be targeted consultation.
It should only be
targeted consultation.
Targeted consultation to direct impacts in the locations.
Madam President, could I then speak to the motion?
To the motion.
I think the only negative part of is that we haven't consulted with them. In the end, they are small businesses. They are ratepayers in our area, and I know I'm one of those caravanners, and I haven't been doing it very much. But we always look for those, you've got wiki sites and all of those kinds of things. So you look for the overnight stay where you don't have to pay a fee. But I'll be suggesting from the outside that we review this after 6 months, because if we're not in the business of sending our own constituents broke at the expense of people looking for a cheap overnight stay. This year I spent some time in Exmouth. I think my caravan would be one of the most modest in the caravan park. A lot of those caravans are worth up to $200,000 and they can afford to pay for their overnight stay and get access to the dump site or whatever. So whilst in the interim I will be supporting this based on Councillor Mylan's amendment, I'll certainly be bringing the matter back to the Council's attention should it have a major impact on those small businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Amodei. Councillor...
I speak against the motion.
Thank you.
Because the change makes it bastardises the motion, essentially. The reality is what we do from time to time in this chamber is we make changes to appease one person that sent an email in, and that's what's happened here tonight. I foreshadow if this motion loses that the officer's recommendation, I'll bring that back to the chamber with a consultative part to point 3, as Councillor Amodei has said. When we go out to do these things, of course we don't set out to cripple businesses. That's not what we're in this game for. But as we've heard tonight already, RVs cannot go into the caravan park in Northcliffe because they can't get into the driveway. We're not about setting up caravan parks. We don't run caravan parks. They would run the caravan park. But interestingly enough, if you read the exact point 3, it is to request the Chief Executive Officer to engage with the Caravan and Motorhome Club of Australia, CMCA, to determine their interest to establish CMCA. They may say no, by the way. They may say no. But of course, because one person has emailed us in and we've dropped our DAX and said, that's it, we're not going to do it because we don't want to impede caravan parks, let's do the full investigation. I do agree, though, in hindsight, that we could add to point 3 some consultation with existing caravan parks. That would be the right thing to do. So I urge you to vote this down and let the motion come back to the table and be presented in its fashion with consultation.
Are there any speakers for the motion? Closing up. I'd like to speak for the motion. I think removing the point 3, it doesn't mean that we've removed it forever. This could certainly be brought back later on, and I definitely agree with Councillor Wilcox. We can use this as a suck it and see. This was the initial discussion that we had about this. This was about bringing people that maybe drove through town in their RVs, not so much caravans, within their self-contained motorhomes, that would then park down in the parking bay, 5 k's out of town, and then they would continue on their way. This is about getting those people to stay in town. Maybe if they pull in late at night, they go and get a coffee in the morning, do some shopping, and then they continue on their way. So the initial intent of this was not to have people staying in these places for 3 nights. It was about having those people stay within our towns and not being parked in the out-of-town parking bay. So I would commend you to support the amended motion with the point 3 removed, and then this is something that we can come back and visit should it go well, and then we can include consultation at that point with the surrounding businesses. Not that we will not do that at this point. They do have the possibility to once again be involved in our blueprints and give that clear direction to council. Is this, and the Shire, is this something the community would like? So I would commend you to support the amended motion. Councillor Mylan, did you want to close?
Yeah, I'd like to close, and without repeating the points that I've made in the past, but I would like to say to Councillor De Campo, the assertion or an assumption that one person writes a letter and we all change our mind and some kind of extravagant gesture is absolutely nonsense, really.
It's not the front bench, Councillor.
I'd had my position on this well before I got one letter. I'm strong. I've always.
Wasn't the conversation you had with the President earlier?
Thank you, Councillor De Campo.
I'd already determined that I was going to do this yesterday, or when I read this over the weekend. I've, I think, been consistent in the concept that we, as a Shire, try and stay out as much as possible of the way, stay out of the way of other providers who might be commercially providing services, and I think we should continue to do that. It's not just caravan park owners that might not support this thing. I don't really know, but I reckon a lot of the residents and friends of mine that I know, when I speak to them, if I said, do you reckon the Shire should, let's say, Ray Park, for instance, and go to a club that has a bunch of members that travel around Australia, we should allow them for, I don't know how much money, I don't think we're even leasing it to them, we let them use it, probably another 80 cents a week job. And
point of order, Madam President.
You can't bring in new information, you have to just wrap up.
Oh, wrapping.
Sorry.
It's not Christmas presents, mate.
Thank you. You've got to wrap it up.
I was taking a cue from one of the former members.
You've got to summarise what's already been said.
All right, I'm sorry. New information.
I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much for that. I forgot about that rule. But really, I just don't think it's a reasonable idea for us to be involved in allowing another group to, as I said before, and I'll repeat in my wrapping up, that we should be giving them land to run another caravan park. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Councillors, can we put it to the vote, please? Can we vote on the amended motion? All those in favour? And against? Carried 5-2. Thank you. 9.11.1, proposed budget amendment. Successful funding application for upgrades of the Manjimup Art Gallery. Councillor Winfield, I'm assuming you would like to do this?
As per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Winfield. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. Councillor Winfield?
Yes, once again, as I mentioned in my deputation, I've been a passionate supporter of the gallery, and I'd also, at this point, like to pay tribute to the Library and Cultural Services Manager, Vanda, for her enthusiasm in getting this grant and her continued enthusiasm for the gallery.
Thank you, Councillor Winfield. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, I too would like to commend the Manager of Libraries and Cultural Services on getting this grant, and I'd just like to point out that are we competing with commercial galleries in the region?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any speakers against?
That's different. That's not real commitment.
I too would like to congratulate the manager of the Libraries and Cultural Services. After attending various exhibitions at the gallery, there is a definite need for some upgrades, whether that be the cracks in the walls, the lights that are no longer working, and to be able to go out and get a grant for this, which could have come out of our maintenance, but we have a very small maintenance budget for our gallery and our libraries. It's fantastic to see that this is the work that she has done to maintain such a fantastically used space. So I too congratulate the entire community services group, but especially our manager down there. Councillors, can we put it to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay. 9.12.1, proposed decision from a South West Regional Road Group elected members motion, July 2025. I'm going to move this. Thanks, councillors. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey, thank you. In speaking to this motion, this is a hotly contested motion. It is something that we have had great debate about at Regional Roads Group. There does seem to be a continual handballing from state government back to local government. We do have restricted ability to just continuously take on more services. I commend our Director of Infrastructure Services for coming up with the list of bridges, real bridges, not pretend ones, and strongly support you to support this motion that we will then give us a great deal of backing at Regional Roads to continue this through with main roads. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to?
No, I just hope everyone supports this because I think it's a really important decision for our shire. If we can get this through, you know, the bridges are a major expense for us now. So,
yep. Thank you. Are there any speakers against?
Madam President, I'd love to speak for the motion. It's a bridge too far to expect us to pay for our bridges.
Oh,
and of course,
don't burn.
And certainly you should never burn your bridges in the chamber.
Thank you.
The bridges of Madison County.
Oh, good lordy. Are there any other speakers? Can we put... Yeah, I reckon. Can we put this to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.16.1, unconfirmed meeting minutes of the Walpole Town Activation Advisory Committee meeting held on the 14th of August 2025. Councillor Wilcox?
As per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wilcox, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Late reports, we have nil. 11, questions from members. No final questions from members. Excellent. Yes, I am. Motions for consideration at the following meeting. What, none? Gosh, shocked. I'm shocked. 13, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are none. At this point, I would like to thank the gallery for coming. We do have a confidential item to consider. So I would like to thank you all for coming. We will consider the item. You're more than welcome to hang out in the cold until we've considered this item. And then come back in for the reading.
With the staff.
Yeah, with the staff. They'll be out there too. So thank you. Lovely to meet you. And we may come out for strawberries, thank you. And raspberries. Good luck going forward, Janet. Yeah, we have to move to go behind.
I'll move that we go behind closed doors.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey, all those in favour? 7-0, thank you.
Just remember to...
Thank you so much. That the motion that Council 1 receive the unconfirmed minutes of the Chief Executive Officer Review Advisory Committee meeting held on the 11th of September 2025 as per attachment 14.1.1 in brackets 1. 2. Note that the appraisal of Mr Ben Rose, Chief Executive Officer, has been completed for the period of November 2024 to September 2025. 3. Endorse by absolute majority the findings of the summary report as presented by Price Consulting and thank Mr Rose for his efforts. 4. Support the CEO's continued professional development in financial management, including advanced budgeting, financial analysis, strategic financial oversight as a means of reinforcing existing strengths and enhancing future-focused decision-making. 5. Approve the CEO's total remuneration package to be adjusted by 4% to the salary component of the TRP, effective from the anniversary date of the contract. 6. Endorse the proposed CEO's 2025-2026 performance criteria for the next review period for approval at Council as per attachment 14.1.1 in brackets 2. 7. Release this resolution with the ordinary Council meeting minutes for this meeting. Carried 7-0. Fabulous. Okay. Applications for leave of absence. I'm sorry, we're not approving that.
We're not taking applications.
There being no further business, I wish to thank our 4 retiring councillors for their services to the Shire and to their communities, and wish to thank those in attendance, even though they've left, and close the meeting at 7:28.